All right, golfers, welcome back. Today, let's talk ball striking. Let's be honest, it's the part of the game that really brings us back week after week, isn't it? Yes, it's satisfying to hole a putt or chip it close, but there's nothing quite like getting that flush contact with an iron or a driver and seeing that ball sail down there towards your target. It is addictive. It's what brings us back week after week. But ball striking is also one of the biggest parts of the game that people will struggle with. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 3 simple drills you can do to work on your ball striking, irrelevant of where you are at with your golf swing. These are what I call skill drills. They are drills that are going to help you develop the skill you need to be a ball striker. So what skills do you need to be a great ball striker? Well, I like to break it down into 4 key skills. You need to be able to control your low point, control the face path relationship, control your loft, and then control and maximize your club head speed. Now, the entry level for this would be the low point, because ultimately, if I'm fatting, thinning, and topping my shots, it really doesn't matter about the rest of it, because the ball is just not going to be consistently getting airborne and getting a chance to go towards my target. So the drills we're going to be looking on in this video are 3 drills to help you work on improving your low point control. The important part of this is that these are skill drills. These are not technique drills per se. In other words, you can work on these irrelevant of what state your swing is in at the moment. Yes, working on the technical elements of your swing will help with your ability to do these drills effectively, but we can still train the skill irrelevant of where we're at with our golf swing. Some golf swings will find this easier to do because they are in a better position, shall we say. Other golf swings might find it a bit trickier, but ultimately we can always work on skill. So let's get into it. So now when we look at low point, essentially the bottom of the golf swing, we often refer to it in terms of is it before or after the golf ball, but there are 2 other elements of low point we need to consider. We need to consider the low point's depth. So how deep is it going into the ground, or how high above the ground is it? And we also need to consider where it is in reference to the golfer in terms of being further away from the golfer or closer to the golfer. Each one of these aspects will affect our ability to strike the center of the club face. So we need to train each one of them to really start flushing our iron shots. Let's get into drill number 1. So the first drill we're going to do is a classic chalk line drill. So it's all you need is a piece of chalk and a driving range mat to hit off of. Very simply, grab the chalk, and I want you to draw a little line, or even a box if you like, on the ground, like so. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to set up at the far side of the box or line, and we're simply going to make swings practicing landing the club into the chalk box. So we're training the idea of getting the low point appropriately after the golf ball. So we're looking at the low point in terms of closer or further away from the target. Do a couple of practice swings where you try to land the club into the chalk box. If you do it correctly, you'll see a nice little puff of chalk smoke coming up, as it were. And once you can do that a few times, now place the ball on the far edge of the box, so further away from the target, and try to repeat the same process. See if you can get the club to land in the chalk box after the golf ball. Done correctly, you're going to find that you get a nice puff of chalk smoke. Contact can be really nice because we've got the low point just after the golf ball, and we should see that ball pop up and fly out there with some good flight on it and a little bit of compression as well. So the second drill is going to be looking at the in and out aspect of low point. So that would be whether or not the club is moving away or closer to the player. If the low point or the club is moving away from the player, that's where we're going to see strikes start to shift towards the heel side of the club, maybe even the hosel if we get too far with it. And if we see the club start to move closer towards the player, the low point coming in more, that's when we see strikes start to shift towards the toe end of the club. So very simply, what we're going to do for this one is we're going to place the club on the ground just behind the golf ball like so. And we're going to take one of the tees, ideally shorter tees, as that will give you just a little bit more room to do this. Place that about half an inch outside of the toe end of the club. You then take the other tee, keeping the club in position, place it about half an inch inside of the toe of the club like so. So now you have a gate for the club to work through. Now the idea being here that if I were to be moving my low point further away from me, I would hit the far tee. If I was bringing the low point closer into me, I would hit the closer tee. So hitting shots, again, paying attention to that low point in terms of before and afterwards, just making sure we're getting that nice clean contact, but hitting shots and seeing if I can get through without disturbing the tees. So again, a really nice drill to help you train the in and out aspect of the low point without having to necessarily think too much about what's going on in your golf swing. And this final drill is going to be looking at the depth of the low point. So how deep into the ground is the low point, or how high above the ground is the low point. This is an aspect that would cause issues with flats, thins, and tops if we're not getting it right. Now, ideally, we would do this off grass, because if we were doing it off grass, we'd be able to see the divot depth. We'd be able to see how deep we're going into the ground or how we're not touching the ground at all. But obviously in the UK, we hit a lot of the time off mats. And so for this one, we're going to be using more of an audible feedback. We're going to be using how much of a thud are we creating when we strike the golf ball. Now, if we are going too deep into the ground when we hit our shots, what we're going to find is that we'll be making quite a loud noise into the mat, like so. And if we aren't going deep at all, obviously if we miss the ground altogether, we'll get that swing and a miss. If we find we're just about grazing the ground, there'll be just that little nick or that little brush. Now, with this one, this is more about finding the ideal depth for you. A lot of golfers will try to hit down, 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 and actually cause a situation where they put the low point too deep into the ground, leading to actually hit the ground behind the golf ball as the low point has gone too far down, pushing the entry point into the ground too far back. So for this one, we're actually just going to play around with the extremes. So your first one, I want you to try and hit down into the ground. I want you to get the biggest thud you can after the golf ball when you hit your shot. So this would be taking the low point as deep as we can, trying to maintain that low point being after the ball as well. Now, if you do that one correctly, you're going to hear this really nice big thud off the mat. And typically, we're going to see that ball flight out a lot lower. It's going to come out low and flighted. Then I would like you to play around with trying to pick the ball as clean as possible off the mat. How well can you just pick it off the surface without thinning it? So we're now trying to just get that low point to graze the ground. So we're picking the ball very, very clean. Now, if you do that one correctly, you're going to feel like you barely touch the ground at all, which is obviously the goal. And that ball should come out a lot higher. So for this one, like I say, it's more about experiencing the extremes, the both sides of the scale, as it were. So you can start to figure out where you would fit in best. Where do you strike your golf shots best from? Are you needing to go down into the ground more, get deeper into the ground? Or are you actually going too deep and need to come back up a little bit? Obviously, there will be technical components in terms of how we do this. But once again, just remember, these are skill drills today. We're just trying to work on the skills by training them as opposed to working on too many technical things.